We're all living in a world gone geek. It's time to geek hard or go home. The website is fake, but the podcast is real. Here's your host, Grounded Geek.
Hello, fellow pop culture enthusiasts, and welcome to the show. We're glad that you're here. We've got an exciting show today. I'm really excited to get right into it. So here we go. First off, let me welcome my co-hosts from the panel, Gone Geek. First up, my regular compadre, Utah Shu joins me. Utah.
Greetings, programs. Hello.
So glad that you're here. How's your week been so far?
It's been the same as every other past week.
They get to starting to run together. Do you even realize what day it is?
I don't. Is it Wednesday?
It's podcast day. That's all I know.
Yeah, all right then.
All right. Today's icebreaker. What band were you obsessed with in middle school?
Holy cow. Middle school? So middle school is...
like 6th through 8th-ish?
Gosh. Okay, so I grew up in a town where we didn't have middle school. We had junior high, which was 7 through 9. I know.
Same
it's
concept.
Just weird,
Go ahead.
but it's the same thing. So, gosh, what... I want to say it would be either Depeche Mode or Prince and the Revolution.
Okay.
Which are two really kind of diametrically opposed genres, I guess. But yeah, it'd be those two. Oh, New Order. That was another one.
Nice.
But yeah, I remember those years. Come on, man.
Also on the panel, back with us from last week. We didn't scare her off yet, but we want to welcome back Allea Stefan. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Okay.
Not scared yet.
That's all right. How's your week then?
It's been good. It's, I don't know. I'm kind of with you too.
I hear you.
Everything's just kind of roaming together.
All right. So same question for you. It was probably easier for you to remember because it wasn't as long ago as it was for Utah. What band were you obsessed with in middle school?
I knew right away. Paramore.
Ooh.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, that was my band back, and actually still one of my favorite bands to this day. But yeah,
I knew this question was going to depress me because she was going to name a band that one of my kids is into.
Exactly,
and so that's exactly what she did. She Paramore. My daughter Rachel was very much into Paramore. Yeah, but they're a good band, so I can't blame you. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was probably a cross between U2 and Def Leppard.
Me? Oh.
Yeah. U2 and Def Leppard. That's
a good one.
Yeah,
U2
both of those were. I'm still madly into U2. U2's my favorite band of all time. So, and I did say band. So when there was some like individual singers I could get, even break it down even further. But definitely U2 and then Def Leppard. I jumped between those two quite a bit. Those two cassette tapes. See what that is, Allea, is they used to record things. And never mind. I'm kidding.
I know what a cassette tape is.
I know. All right. Well, welcome to you both. We're glad that you're here. Let's get to our first segment.
This week in Geek.
It's the part of the show where we pick out 5 stories from the past week that we think you should know about.
Number 1.
Mythbusters has long been a geek favorite show, not the least of which because its hosts and build team are all geeks and pop culture enthusiasts themselves. Grant Imahara, a brilliant engineer and roboticist, part of the build team on the hit show, passed away this past week at the far too young age of 49. Unfortunately, it was a brain aneurysm. Grant's expertise, though, went beyond Mythbusters. He, prior to being on that show, he worked for Lucasfilm, THX, Industrial Light and Magic, and later he was the host of BattleBots. He was kind of a genius, like no joke, and most recently built a screen-accurate animatronic Baby Yoda with plans to tour children's hospitals with it. Just a brilliant, big-hearted guy. Truly sorry to lose him, and my prayers go out to his friends and family. Utah, your thoughts on the passing of Grant?
It's tragic. The world lost a really big geek and engineering light. I've had the pleasure of meeting Grant once back in 2015 in San Diego. And you know how they say never meet your heroes because you'll always be disappointed in one way, shape, or form? That did not apply to Grant. He was the most humble, kind, big-hearted, nicest guy you could ever ask to admire or be inspired by. I mean, just the fact that he was making a screen-accurate Baby Yoda and his whole premise for that was to go to children's hospitals and bring some joy into those kids' lives. I mean, that says it all. He was a genius. He came up with so many great things. I mean, he worked on a couple of Star Wars movies. He worked on Terminator 3. He had a BattleBot, so he wasn't even just a host. He actually had a BattleBot. I forget its name. I know NSYNC were big fans of that BattleBot of his, though. I remember him telling me that story, which was pretty good. But it's the fact that it was just so sudden and so out of nowhere. It really was a shocker, and I was really hit. It really hit me hard. So may he rest in peace.
Allea, have you ever seen Mythbusters? Do you ever watch that show?
I have seen Mythbusters, but I'm not as fluent with his work as you guys are. However, I did enjoy watching Mythbusters. And for anyone that passes, it's still a heart-shattering moment. So definitely something, regardless of who you are, outside of the work that he's done. I'm sure that warrants and is everyone that he has touched to be heartbroken. Prayers still go out to their family and friends. And again, may he rest in peace.
Yeah, just too soon. 49. That's just
49.
So sad.
I hate to say it, but that's like how old I am. And, I think about that and I'm like, I can't even imagine what his friends and family are going through. Heck, I mean, he made Jeff Peterson from the Craig Ferguson Late Show.
His little robot,
animatronic robot skeleton sidekick.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know he built that.
He did.
That's so funny. And a lot of people don't think about this, but there was a little Star Trek revival on the internet back in the day called Star Trek Continues. They built the sets to look just like the show, and got together a cast and tried to make episodes that went beyond where the original show got canceled. So it was almost as if the show just kind of picked up where it left off.
It continued.
Grant played Sulu in that. And that was a pretty fun show. But our hearts are broken for his family and for his friends and for the whole Mythbusters crew. I know that they're all sad right now. He was truly a light.
Number 2.
San Diego Comic-Con, as we've talked about on the podcast before, will be virtual this year, which means Utah can't leave me behind here in Cleveland.
I'm taking you with me this year.
While he gallivants around with the rest of the geek world out in sunny California. But while I would trade anything to have this pandemic nonsense gone, it's tough to deny that there's some comfort in getting to be a part of one of Geekdom's biggest conventions of the year from the privacy of our own home. This schedule has been released finally. That's the news this week. So we're going to put the actual link because you can't click a link in a podcast. I could tell you and read that URL. Not going to do that. I'm going to put it in the show notes and you're welcome to go there and click, and you can see the entire schedule. Everything, every panel is right there. You can actually sign up and click which ones you're going to go to, and it'll give you reminders. There's links to the YouTube pages where those panels will be held. And it's pretty exciting. I'm looking at the schedule and filling mine out, and there's some really cool stuff.
Oh, yeah. First off, I want to say that I'm really impressed. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect in terms of quality of content because, it was canceled and they're doing it virtually. But they've done a really good job of kind of keeping the quality of the content and the panels and the casts and the shows and projects very close to what you would see if they still had it, in person. I mean, you don't have the big DC movie studio one or the big Marvel one, but you do still get great ones. The Boys has a panel with the cast and showrunners. The Old Guard has a panel. Both Walking Dead, Fear of Walking Dead also have their panel. So, I mean, they still have some of the really popular ones going on, which is great. So I'm excited. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all pans out and how the internet handles that kind of traffic, because I suspect that the internet will be inundated with streaming traffic next week because of this. And I'm also curious after it's all done. I'm curious to see what the numbers are, to see how much interest there was, whether it was successful enough that maybe they'll consider doing part of it virtually every year from here on out. I can't imagine it'd be a bad thing. The more people that are excited about this and get to experience some of this stuff, I think the better. I also like the fact that they've got little printed home badges, so you can print your badge.
Yeah, I've not done that yet. I got to do that now.
And then they have the signs, like front of line signs, end of line signs, restroom signs, all the stuff that you would see in person. They're now allowing you to print at home, which I think is cute. So I'm excited. Did you
get a chance to look at the schedule, Allea?
Yes, so I've never been to a Comic-Con. Never even.
We're gonna change that once things are back. You're gonna have to come with us.
I'm actually I take that back. I did go to one, and it was Flaming River Con in Rocky River.
Oh yeah.
And that was actually pretty neat. But I remember, and he was like, this was my mindset when I was in college, and I went to Bowling Green, so I'm not sure if you guys were, familiar with the Comic-Con that happened there. It's like, it was super huge, but let me tell you, I had no idea what was going on. So I just kept seeing all these people in weird costumes. Like, why are these people dressing up? And then now, fast forwarding 2 years later, I'm like, wow, this is something that I definitely would have been interested in if I would have known what was going on. I just kept seeing all these people in weird costumes, most of which I was not familiar with. So if I was familiar, I probably would have been like, oh yeah, really excited. But there was a few things that I did see on the schedule that I was pretty interested in. So like they have a Constantine. That is one movie that I actually know about, guys. The 15th anniversary reunion, Women of Color in Comics, which for those of you that don't know, I am a person of color, but it doesn't necessarily matter. It's all love. So that one I did find interesting because I'm not as aware of people of color in comics, and that diversity and inclusion definitely is something that sparks my interest. So there were a few different things that I think I also saw Disney Plus's Phineas and Ferb, the movie.
Yes.
For all of my kids out there.
Yeah, that's Phineas and Ferb is freaking genius. That show,
it's
so good.
Phineas and Ferb is going to be one of those is timeless. Yeah, really.
And so they've got a new movie coming out. Yeah, and they've got the cool thing about this schedule that they've put out there is you can actually see if you are connected to your Facebook or your Twitter, you can see what your friends have signed up for too. And so I can see if I'm signed up with things that Utah signed up for. And it looks like we're only signed up for two of the same things. So even if we had gone to San Diego together, we would have split up, it looks like. And gone
I
to
would have
different
seen you for a half hour on the first day.
Yeah. So but the ones that we did pick, like there's a His Dark Materials, and the only reason I'm not a huge fan of that show or that book series.
But it's Lin-Manuel
Miranda's, so I'm going to go to that panel. I want to check it out. And then The Boys season 2, I definitely was doing it, and I'm sure I didn't look to see if we matched up, but the Bill and Ted Face the Music, I'm pretty sure you signed up for that, right?
Cast and director and producer are going to be there. So Keanu and Alex will both.
Oh, yes. Very excited for that one.
Do you pay for all of these? This is why I didn't sign up. I wasn't sure if you had to pay for anything.
Nope, just click it. And,
just click it, and it'll be on your schedule. And then next week, it'll remind you with the actual links to the YouTube channel or whatever that the panel actually happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you just sign up for this and
totally
they send
free.
You your badge. That's why he's taking you with him this year. That makes sense.
Hey, wait a minute.
It's very expensive when it's in San Diego. But yeah, in San Diego, obviously you've got flight and hotel and tickets, and the whole thing is just, can be expensive. But hey, now it's at home. So obviously, it's no big deal.
Yeah, I'm already got my, because usually about this time, a week before Comic-Con, I'm trying to make a list of all the stuff that I need to be in line and this, that, and the other. And I'm going to, sit outside my backyard overnight, just like I would in San Diego. I'd be outside overnight waiting in line to do whatever and, trying to get that full experience again, even though it's at home.
Yeah. Do you have the tent?
No. They don't allow tents. I'm not going to cheat.
I cannot wait for this. I'm very excited. The Simpsons has a panel.
Oh,
That's one of my favorite. Bob's Burgers has a panel. I'm a huge fan. And then on Sunday, on the last day, Goldberg's has a panel. And Goldberg's is just absolutely one of my favorite shows. And not the least of which is because I'm pretty sure
they based it on you.
Except for the fact that I'm not Jewish. Everything else on that show is from my life. It's been scary how many, down to the wrestling and trying to get, with his dad and but I'm both Barry and Adam, I found out in different storylines. The Barry storyline with wrestling and his dad is just like so identical. It's really spooky, but so I'm going to watch that. I love that show a lot.
The Goldbergs to you is fresh off the boat to me.
There you go. Right?
No,
it's
seriously.
Crazy.
It's just crazy how accurate the shows are.
That's funny. Yeah. And that one also takes place in the 80s, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Check it out. We'll put the link to get your schedule. We'll put the link to find and print your badges. I also saw they're selling some merchandise. I guess you can get a shirt that says front of line on the front and back of line on the back because you're the front and back of the line now because you're at home, right? Like
I cannot express how much I need.
It's kind of brilliant.
It's genius.
Yeah,
absolute genius.
So really looking forward to this.
They're doing a really good job in terms of, like I said, content and the merchandise. And then, of course, also all the other vendors that usually have Comic-Con exclusive items are now starting to list them as to what they are, and then they're going to go on sale online, I think, Wednesday morning. So sadly for me, because it's nice to know people that know people to give you greater odds to get some of these exclusives, that doesn't happen this year.
No, everybody's got the same.
Everybody's got the same
chance to get one. Yep.
No, I think that's awesome. Like I said, this year, so many more people are going to be able to participate in one way, shape, or form in something that is only limited to 250,000 people. And every year, over 1.5 million people try and get badges to go to San Diego Comic-Con, and a fraction of them actually get them. And now this year, everybody gets to go.
You get a badge, and you get a badge, and
you get a badge, and you get a badge. Exactly. So I think that's cool. I think that's awesome. I'm glad they're doing it.
Number 3.
All right, so it's not Aaliyah's favorite subject, but we'll make her a Star Wars fan before too long. But at least the good Star Wars. There's good Star Wars. There's bad Star Wars. There's you don't have to be a fan of all the Star Wars, but some of the Star Wars you should like. So we're going to try to introduce you to some of that. But when there is Star Wars news, we have to share it on the show. And this week, a couple of really cool things that dropped. First off, a new animated series launched out of the Clone Wars will feature the Bad Batch, a group of modified clones introduced to us towards the end of the animated Clone Wars series on Disney Plus right now. Sort of like a Star Wars Dirty Dozen, but there's only 5 of them. So I guess closer to the A-Team, I guess, really. But
there you go.
They're going to have new adventures in a post-Order 66 world, which could be a lot of fun. When they introduced these guys during the Clone Wars, as the Clone Wars was wrapping up, I actually thought they were kind of a standout. I think that they sort of became a little bit of a fan favorite. People were like, had spent, so many seasons watching all these clones that they have different personalities, but they're really all the same, and
right.
To
Rex
see these
Cody,
modified clones being able to kind of branch out and have their own kind of characters, I think was kind of cool. What did you think?
I like the news. I agree with you. The Bad Batch story arc in this last season of Clone Wars, I found very entertaining. And it's exactly for the reason that you said. They're actually clones that are physically different from the other clones, but then also have specific skills because of their differences. And they operate, in a very non-structured way, especially compared to the rest of the clones. Just their interplay with Rex, I thought was great to see the kind of their different styles and different philosophies kind of conflict, but then end up working together. And so, part of me is like, oh, another spin-off is that something that we really need? But the Bad Batch is very compelling to me, and so the fact that they're timing this after Order 66 definitely gives it a lot of unknown things to mine for their show. So I'm excited. I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of on the same page as one of our friends who also has been on the show before, Lou Tambone, who has become frustrated with all of these cartoons, and now even with The Mandalorian, because they keep going back to the well and bringing back these characters, these fan favorites, instead of just telling new stories.
Yep.
He is not, I haven't talked to him about this, but I bet I can read his mind. He's probably saying if Ahsoka shows up in this or any of those, and it's not because he's not an Ahsoka fan, but or any of that kind of stuff. It's just like, enough, Dave Filoni. We get it. You've created some cool characters and you want them to be in everything that you do. But how about we tell some other stories? There are more. The galaxy is bigger than just these few people that keep showing up over and over in these animated series. And I'm on the same. I agree with him. I think that's true. I love Ahsoka. I didn't at first, but towards the end of that show, she became one of my favorite characters. I actually like that she's appeared in Rebels. That's kind of fun. I like the idea that she's showing up on Mandalorian possibly, but it is kind of like, okay, come on.
Right.
There are other people
be connected
in these galaxies. Let's go ahead and let's introduce new characters and have some fun with some new ideas. So I'm totally on board with that. So I don't want to steal his thunder, but he's not on the show this week. So I want to make sure his viewpoint gets out, because he's right. He's right about that. I think he's right. So it'll be interesting to see if the Bad Batch introduces a whole new group of Star Wars fun, or new planets, new things, new Star Wars. That would be awesome. The additional rumor that has some serious credibility, actually, besides the Bad Batch, is that Hayden Christensen will be reprising his role as Anakin Skywalker in the still in endless development Obi-Wan series over at Disney+. Now, whether he'll play Anakin himself in flashbacks or visions or just Darth Vader in the suit, still not 100% confirmed, but I think either is great. It's interesting. I'd love to see that Hayden is coming back. What do you think, Utah?
I like the idea. I hope he's over his distaste for sand. Maybe not. But no, I like the idea, especially, when you've got Ewan McGregor reprising his role as Obi-Wan. It kind of makes sense that if they're going to have anything to do with Anakin, that they would try and get Hayden Christensen back. And so I'm okay with that decision. I am curious, like you said, is it going to be flashbacks, or is this something where he is a ghost, or is he playing Vader? Who knows? I honestly, there's been so much talk about this Obi-Wan show. I don't even remember. Is it about Obi-Wan's time between episodes 3 and 4, or is it
presumably? I mean, that's what a lot of people have said.
Right. And so if it is, then I'm curious. I'm curious. I'm happy for the news. Hayden Christensen is a great actor. Even he was just given kind of crappy stuff in the prequel series, so I don't blame him for anything that I dislike. So I'm excited. I'm very curious to see where it goes. I really want this Obi-Wan show, though. I've been wanting this for years.
Yeah, me too. And I think it gives them a chance to really I think what the Clone Wars animated series actually has done is sort of redeemed the prequels a little bit for me. I mean, I never hated the prequels. There's a lot of people who just hate them, right? Or just hate certain ones. I never hated them. I just, they're not my priority. They're not my favorite ones. I don't necessarily, and I have a feeling that the reason Allea is not yet a Star Wars fan is because she started in the prequels, and that's not the best place to start.
Yeah, that's not the best place to start.
So that's my theory. We've got a theory we're working on. We're going to dedicate a whole episode just to try to get to the root of Alea's Star Wars. I'm kidding.
Our new segments are going to be Get Allea on the Train.
I was going to say, I think that's like one of my biggest hesitations. And maybe I'm afraid that I know once I start, I might actually really enjoy it. And then I'm just going to be like everyone else.
I gotcha. Well, you know what? And it's okay if you don't like it. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah, there's nothing.
Did you guys see how you looked at me when I said I was not a Star Wars?
No, we did not. We didn't give you
No, just kidding.
But
I still have that look. No.
I think the prequels were a little bit stilted, a little tough, a little bit. The writing was a little bit bad. There's some problems, right? And they were boring in a little bit on a few parts, just not as good as what we had seen before. And so that's always been one of my issues. However, some of the things I didn't like about the prequels, I really loved about the Clone Wars animated series. They really started to kind of give more background, more development of those characters. I really love what they did with Obi-Wan, that he had a secret love life, possibly, that he could never act upon. Like, it just gave Obi-Wan more depth. The fact that he had that going on and was resisting it, and yet knew in the background what was going on with Anakin and Padme, that's depth. Depth we didn't have in the movies, but the animated series kind of added to it. So I feel like they've kind of, I don't want to say redeemed the prequels, because the prequels didn't need redemption. I'm just saying it just kind of gave the prequels more depth, and I like that. And that's what I'm hoping this show does too, because Obi-Wan has always been kind of this mystery, right? He's this stern educator kind of in the prequels. He's this batty old, hermit who's basically lying to Luke over and over. You know what I mean?
Right. That's
from a certain point of view, in these things. But why? And how did he get from there to Obi-Wan? Has to have more depth. There must be more to that. And Ewan McGregor is a fantastic actor. And I think it's going to be great to hopefully see him. That's why I think some of this is going to be flashback. I think we're going to see more of their relationship grow. Maybe give us some more backstory that the prequels left out. I think it's going to be more, or vision. Like, you'll have visions of Anakin because he's in the desert and he's losing his mind.
And he's loopy.
Could be that too, but it should be interesting. Either way, I think it's great. That's some good Star Wars news. I needed some Star Wars news. I really did. Star Wars. I can't wait for the next season of Mandalorian to come out. So it was just good to hear some good Star Wars news.
Number 4.
Big news from Netflix this week. They're bringing classic samurai comic icon Usagi Yojimbo to the streaming network as an animated series. Comic started back in 1984 by Stan Sakai, follows the adventures of Miyamoto Usagi, a masterless samurai rabbit in a world populated by other animal characters and steeped in Japanese samurai culture. However, the new series, which will be CGI, follows a direct descendant of Usagi and his eclectic band of heroes as he seeks to be an even greater samurai than his ancestor.
I am very, very excited, more so just because I love samurai stuff. Like I know I told you guys previously, like Samurai Jack, or in the anime realm, Afro Samurai or Samurai Champloo, to my, some of my favorite animes right there. So I am very excited, and then I know that you sent me those free comics, so I've started reading it.
Yeah. What about you, Utah?
I'm excited. I was a fan of Yojimbo, the comic book, not as early as '84, but once I got to college, I think is really when I picked it up and noticed it. And the style of the story and just the story itself was really, really cool. I loved it. I was a little upset when he made his little visit to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a cartoon on TV, because it was nothing like what I had envisioned Yojimbo being. But I understand it's because it was Nickelodeon, it was a kid's show, so they had to do, they made changes like they would for a kid's show. So I'm super excited. Number one, that Stan Sakai is involved with this. So we know that it's going to be, his vision, and he's going to be helping make this. I'm also excited that they're making the story about a descendant. I don't know. I don't remember if it's a son or whatever. If it's kind of a far-flung descendant, right? Like by generations.
I think so. Yeah.
So I'm excited that they're visiting. They're not like kind of revisiting the old stories from the comic books. They're actually doing something new and closer to. It looks like it's going to be modern times or future times, maybe.
That I couldn't get a clear answer on this articles that I read.
Yeah, it was hard to tell, but I do like that they're doing a different generation, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's definitely one of my favorite comic book series as a young adult. So.
Can I just say that you guys, I'm sorry, I don't want to say like your generation or older people.
but just said it anyway. Where's that mute button?
But somebody once said, make sure you say seasoned. I don't know what the preferred term is.
Oh, nice.
It was an older person who told me to say seasoned instead of old. I don't know which one is a preference.
I'm not sure that's better.
Anyway, we'll just say your generation. That's where most, and please correct me if I'm wrong, where most things come about, like really good comic books or movies, like 70s, 80s. I'm sure prior to that, but I'm going to stop at probably the
That's
80s.
really seasoned.
You know, but like all of the really, really good movies or films, you know, classic films or even comic books or, you know, superhero movies come from those generations, you know. And most of the things that happen nowadays are just, you know, kind of spin-offs or revamping what was already
Reboots
told.
Yeah.
And I really wish that I was around back in that heyday to like see things in its original fashion, and instead of just kind of like,
well, you get to about it, you know? Live vicariously through us on this show. But you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because I think what it is, and the reason that it seems that way, is because everybody who grew up with these things that are being rebooted now, we're now old enough, and we're the ones making the movies and paying the money to go see them, and so they're catering to us. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So just you know, a generation ago it was totally different. Do you know what I'm saying? So when my kids are my age, you know, in 20 years or whatever, and those kids are, you know, my kids are 40 or you're in your 40s. The stuff that you were in, well, that's what's interesting. What will be the stuff then? Because that's our stuff. Our stuff is coming back. But I think we've had that. This would be a great conversation. I'm going to save it for another podcast.
We need to table that for another episode.
No, absolutely.
That's okay.
Because I've had that conversation with other people. What is the next generation's like nostalgia? Like, what will it be? So be thinking about that, you guys, because I think, and those of you out there, because I think that's a really good subject. I've had that conversation with a number of people. What's that going to be? Because right now it's our turn to be nostalgic and get all of our stuff coming back and being rebooted. What will it be for our kids and for my kids when they're older? So it'll be interesting. But can I just say also that Netflix is killing it right now? Just recently, they also announced that they grabbed up Bone, the classic comic series from Jeff Smith. So between this and Usagi, they basically claimed the eclectic comic tastes of my early college years. They just said, here's the things Jeff was into in the early 90s.
This is for you,
we're going to grab these because we know he's our favorite subscriber, and we're going to do these shows just for him. No, but yeah, I'm so excited for both. I love Bone. Bone is the greatest. So that's another one to look up, Allea, is Bone. And by the way, what she was talking about was where the free place to get comics is hoopladigital.com. I'll put that in the show notes as well. If you have a library card, you can get access to free comic books, graphic novels, not everything that's ever been made, obviously, but lots of stuff. Selection. Yeah. Right. I am actually just reading through all of the whole run of Spawn, another comic I read back in the 90s. I'm going through all of those again, and it's just been amazing. And that's where you can find Yojimbo, you can find Spawn, you can find lots of old comic books.
Old comics.
It's a great place to get them, and it's absolutely free. Yeah, very seasoned comics. But go check those out. It's fantastic. Hoopla Digital is the place to get all of that.
Number 5.
And finally, what this pandemic has not been short of is new streaming services. Most of these had planned to launch anyway, but with everyone stuck at home, it seems like it would be the perfect time to provide even more home entertainment. Though most of these services have received rather lukewarm reception. HBO Max and the phone-based Quibi, they both got a little bit of a lukewarm reception. So you would think that this is the time everyone's at home and they want to grab these things, but maybe not. But this week we saw the launch of yet another major streaming competitor in the game, PeacockTV, backed by NBC Universal. They boast a huge selection of classic television, a lot of movies from Universal, DreamWorks Animation, Focus Features. You can find classic Hitchcock movies, plus his 2 TV series, Hitchcock Presents and the Hitchcock Hour, or whatever I don't remember what they're called. Universal Monsters versus Abbott and Costello. I love those as a kid. You can watch those awesome. On there. Cheers, Frasier, 30 Rock, so classic sitcoms. Plus, uniquely to Peacock are these all-day streaming channels where you can literally just watch 24/7 clips from The Office. Not episodes, clips. Office Shorts is what it's called, and it's literally funny clip after funny clip after funny clip of The Office. And I would think,
that's hilarious.
Who would watch that? Well, I'll tell you who would watch that. My daughter Rachel. She is obsessed with The Office. She watches The Office, binge watches. She's been through every season of The Office, like straight through 7 or 8 times. I don't know how this girl loves The Office, but anyway. So this channel, I guess they just decided to make that for her. I have no idea.
That's amazing.
There's also a channel just 24/7 SNL sketches. I actually spent quite a few hours watching that yesterday. Those are great. That's a lot of fun. Jimmy Fallon highlight channel, Seth Meyer highlights channel. The Today there's Today All Day.
Are you kidding?
That's
Today
the channel.
Show All Day.
It's called Today All Day. And it's all day Today Show clips.
Well, is it classic Today Show too? Like
I didn't watch it. I just saw that it was there. But then amazingly, also there is Keeping Up with the Kardashians channel, so you can actually see that all day if that's your thing. So I don't know. Did you guys check that out?
I checked. I did sign up for the 7-day free trial on Peacock, and the selection between NBC and Universal is really compelling to me. I'll have to admit. I'm just trying to decide, and I'm going to decide in this next week whether it's something that I would want to keep, because they do have different tiers, right? There's premium, where they don't have ads for $10 a month, and then there's the one like they do with Hulu where you can $5 a month and you get some ads and some of your stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I have to admit Disney Plus kind of is my wheelhouse because they have everything that I would ever want streaming: Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic, Disney, Pixar, right? And so Peacock is definitely a front runner in terms of if I wanted something else because of more of the Universal movie stuff and focus features. So we'll see. That Office clip thing sounds hilarious. Do they have a channel where it's just them parkouring? I just want the Office parkour.
Just the parkour episode 24/7
just the parkour, just over and over.
Yeah, just that opening. Allea, what did you think when you checked out the Peacock?
The same way that I feel about most of these streaming sites is it's just a way to get your money. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's true.
That's true. That is kind of why they exist. That's why they're a business, right?
I know. I love it. I am one of those people that can spend all day binge watching and have zero remorse for it. But I enjoy the fact that some of those older school movies that I haven't seen or I can't necessarily find. Yes, the season movies that I haven't seen or can't find on, Netflix or Hulu. Because sometimes with Netflix or even Hulu, I don't always know, what's good to watch or, if there's anything even worth watching. So it's nice to have something that's kind of fresh and new for me to, kind of venture out into and see what they have.
Well, I just want to throw out there that there are two movies that are on Peacock Network or Peacock TV that if you're in the 7-day free trial, you should see before it goes. And one of those is The Incredible Shrinking Woman with Lily Tomlin.
Classic.
Absolutely. I think I saw that movie a gazillion times as a kid. Like every time it was on cable, I watched that movie over and over and over again. I don't know why, but I was a huge Lily Tomlin fan as a kid. I don't know what it was.
Who wouldn't be?
Well, she's great. I know, but it's just like, you wouldn't think like a kid would be like really into Lily Tomlin, but I totally was. When she would do the telephone operator, Ron Ringy Dingy. Remember that? Love Lily Tomlin, but The Incredible Shrinking Woman is just this fantastic, hilarious movie. Just catch that one. And the other one, another one that I would catch on cable. Every time it was on, I would watch it. It's a guilty pleasure. It's so bizarre. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band with Peter Frampton and the Gibb Brothers. Do you remember that? It's all Beatles music, but no Beatles are in it.
But no Beatles are in it.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
But there's lots of guest stars. Aerosmith is in it.
Yeah.
Like I said, Peter Frampton, the Gibb Brothers, they're all doing different songs from the Beatles, and it's just this weird, loose, strange storyline around it. It's just the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Is there really a story?
No, but it's out there. I think you should definitely check it out. I mean, I've never been able to find it anywhere to watch. True. And here it is on the Peacock Network. So that's great. Well, Peacock is also the home of the brand new DreamWorks animated kids show, Cleopatra in Space, following the adventures of a young teenage Cleopatra as she is sucked through a vortex into a galaxy far, far away as she battles to try and save the universe according to an ancient prophecy. The show is based on a series of graphic novels authored and drawn by our next guest, artist Mike Maihack, and he's going to join us when we come back, so don't go anywhere. Hey, everybody. We hope you're enjoying The Podcast is Real, which is the official podcast here at World Gone Geek. We hope you enjoy the website, worldgonegeek.com, which is a parody and satire site of pop culture news. We really enjoy doing it, so we hope that you enjoy reading it and listening to the podcast. But many of you have asked, how can you help? What can you do to support the podcast? Well, most importantly, spread the word. Let people know what's going on. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, share the tweets, share the posts, share the grams, whatever. All of those things go a long way in letting people know that we're here. People jump on these things and listen to podcasts mostly via word of mouth. So tell people what we're doing. We'd love that. Another way you can support us is by, in your favorite podcast app, find a way to give us a review. Give us 5 stars, tell people that you like what we're talking about, whatever. But if you were to vote, especially on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, if you were just to click those favorite buttons or those stars, that would be huge. It helps us rise up the list. It helps us be noticed by more people, and therefore more people will start to listen. And finally, if you'd like to get involved in a really concrete way, we do have a Patreon account, patreon.com/worldgonegeek. We have several tiers there where you can actually support the podcast financially, even as low as $2 a month. Did you know that if we ended up with 10 patrons at just $2 a month, that would help pay for one of the hosting costs for one of the things that we're doing here? So we would love it if you'd be able to do that. We totally understand if you can't. There's plenty of other ways to help, as I said before. But I do want to let you guys know about the Patreon account, because right now this would be a sponsor break and we don't have any sponsors yet because we just got started. We're just getting rolling. Once we have a lot more listeners and a lot more of a following, we could maybe look into that. But in the meantime, we'd love to have your support in all the ways that I just described. If there's any of those things that you feel in your heart that you would like to do to be a part of the show, we'd appreciate it. Most importantly, though, I am so glad that you are listening. Thank you. Thank you for downloading this podcast and listening, because that means the world to me. We're not just talking out into the air, that there are people on the other end actually appreciating what we do. Thanks so much for being there. Let's get back to the show. All right, welcome back. Thank you for waiting during that brief period while we gathered our guest into the Zoom. That's right. As I said before we went into the break, we're being joined today by artist and author Mike Maihack, who is the creator of such great webcomics as Cow and Buffalo and the amazing Cleopatra in Space, which is started as a webcomic, became a series of graphic novels, and is now a DreamWorks animated TV show on the Peacock network. Mike Maihack, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're so glad that you're here. And part of me wants to jump right in and start talking about Cleopatra in Space, because I'm on like episode 5 now. I've been binging like crazy since Wednesday. It's just such a great show. But let's go a little bit further back. Let's talk a little bit about how you got there. I mentioned Cow and Buffalo. I think that was the first thing that actually introduced me to you. Was we have a mutual friend who introduced me to Cow and Buffalo, and so I started reading those, and he and just loved it and thought the art was just so much fun. Tell, and I don't know if Utah, have you ever heard of Cow and Buffalo? Have you seen that?
I have heard of Cow and Buffalo. I'll be honest, I have not. I don't remember reading any of it. But Cow and Buffalo somehow sticks in my mind, and I think that's why you chose a name, right? Because Cow and Buffalo just kind of.
I chose it because it was about cow and a buffalo.
Makes perfect sense.
It sounds like when I'm naming things, they're not the most creative. I mean, it's Cleopatra in space, right. Cow and buffalo. You know,
there's no beating around.
If I'm writing a story about a dinosaur, it's going to be called The Dinosaur. You know, it's not
perfect.
So I do not like titling stuff at all.
Well, where did Cow and Buffalo come from? Like, what was the impetus for that comic?
I grew up kind of I don't think obsessed is the were, but the cow was definitely my sort of spirit animal growing up. I was, I think all kids love seeing cows on the side of the road when they're like, there's a cow, there's a cow. It's so exciting. And then, but that kind of, it's sure you start to grow out of that. And I never did. I just always get excited. The cows. I just love how kind of docile they were, and it's like, whatever. They were just so cool about everything. So I was thinking about what I could do, sort of, to strengthen my storytelling skills in terms of making a webcomic. And I wanted to do something where it wasn't so epic, where I wasn't going to be able to finish something. So I started these strips that I could finish in just like about 6 panels, just maybe one a week, something funny. And I just kind of used this cow character that I have been drawing just in like greeting cards to my grandparents and stuff for years. And I needed somebody for him to talk to. So I just kind of created this buffalo character. And then it was just it was pretty much just conversations I would have in my head, just personified by these 2 bovines. And it was just this wacky, very dry humor. I used to compare it to like, sort of like Peanuts, but with Monty Python sort of thrown into it.
That's an interesting
in terms of the humor.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I did that for it's funny you mentioned it, because I just redid my website. And I was throwing all of those old cow, because it's been about 6 or 7 years since I think worked on that strip. So I was throwing all these old comics into the website. And actually, it took me longer than it should have, because I kept rereading some of them, and I was like, man, that was so funny. Like, I was so funny 10 years ago. What happened? These are hilarious. And like, why can't I be this funny anymore? And so. Yeah, they're all up on the website now if anybody wanted to check them out.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Read them.
Yeah, and well, that was, like I said, that was the first introduction I had to your art, and I just loved the style of cow and buffalo. I guess, I don't know, maybe the cow is my spirit animal as well, because I at least connected with the humor. And I loved Peanuts and I love Monty Python, so maybe that's why I liked it so much.
Yeah,
but
that works. Yeah,
I remember just kind of following along with that, and then I remember that you started Cleo as a web comic as well, right?
Yeah.
And tell us, first of all, where did the idea to put Cleopatra in? I mean, I know it's an obvious title, but where it's not an obvious idea, right? It's definitely not everyone. I know. How did you get the idea to put this historical figure out in space?
It was really just me being kind of goofy. I mean, I was still working on Count Buffalo at the time, so that humor was still really, I guess, proficient in everything I was doing. But I was part of this drawing group. It was called Drawer Geeks, and this was before really social media had really taken off. I don't even know if Twitter might have been around, but it wasn't huge. Facebook was just kind of starting. And so a bunch of different animators, graphic designers, illustrators, we would get together every 2 weeks, and there'd be a character that we would just all draw our interpretation of. And 1 week happened to be Cleopatra. And I always sort of never felt like my drawing skills were up to par with everybody else that was on there. So I just at least tried to be funny. So I was like, I'm going to put her in space, and I gave her a big bubble helmet and floating cat, and I put Cleopatra in space across the top of it. Totally alluding to pigs in space.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just completely ripped that off. And then I don't know, it just kind of really sort of resonated, this one image with everybody that's on there. I was getting AOL, remember AOL Instant Messenger? I know, Allea, might be before your time.
AOL?
AOL,
You've got mail.
Yeah, I'm familiar with AOL.
We were all on AOL Instant Messenger, and they were messaging me. This is back when I had a graphic design job when I was working on this. It's like, you need to make a comic of this. You need to make a comic. It's like, no, I'm working on cow and buffalo. That's my thing. But eventually I did. I just sort of made this sort of black and white early comic of it, intending just to get it out of my system and then go back to cow and buffalo. And instead I stopped working on cow and buffalo and just continued with Cleo instead.
Yeah, that first run I remember was all in black and white, and then and like future chapters, then you started doing things more in color, and it started looking a little bit more like what we have today, because you can see how the art kind of transformed over time into what how you were kind of developing what she was going to look like. In fact, I feel like in those early Cleopatra comics, is she older than she is in the current iteration?
Yeah. When I first started, I was making the thing up as I was going along, like literally panel by panel, page by page, making it up. And in my head, it was more of a sort of a Buck Rogers-y kind of science fiction action. And that's part of the reasons I did it in black and white, besides just, be quicker to get it done. Yeah, sure. But I like that aspect that you sort of that black and white sort of retro, old school science fiction. But yeah, she was a little older in my head. And then as I was sort of making it up, I was like, well, why is she in space? And, what is she doing? What's her goal? What's her motivations here?
What's her motivation?
Yeah. I think she was just trying to trying to blow her way out of an enemy space station. And it's like, I need more than this. And so as I was writing, I was thinking about it, and the story started developing and I was thinking about Star Trek, because I'm a huge Star Trek fan. But one of the Star Trek shows I never ever got that I really wanted was a Starfleet Academy show. I wanted like them as
cadets.
Yeah, as cadets, younger, and like training, and like everything I had to take to go up and do these missions that they would mess up from time to time, and not everything was very successful. And so Cleo started off as kind of a sort of mesh of that and like Buffy the Vampire Slayer characterization. And I just sort of mashed those two things together with ancient Egypt. And that's kind of how it started to really kind of come together.
That's awesome. I remember reading it on the web, because again, like I said, I was following Cal and Buffalo, and then suddenly this Cleopatra in space comes in. And but I remember really enjoying it. And my daughters are artists too. My oldest daughter really loves to draw, and she sent you some fan art of Cleo way back in the day. I don't know.
Oh, did she really?
Yeah. I remember you commented on it.
I probably still have it.
Yep.
Yeah, I save all that stuff.
You said That's something. Awesome. I don't remember if it was on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, but it made her day. But she, as a father of daughters, I have sons too, but as a father of daughters, I forget them.
Who cares about the sons? Let's talk about the daughters. Yeah.
Well, you have what? My point is, my sons have lots of heroes and lots of characters and lots of stories that they can find. And my daughters are mostly stuck with, and not that there's anything wrong. We love the Disney princesses and we love some of that stuff. Those are great stories, but they never really had like these kind of like, adventure heroes, kind of like Black Widow is now. And, it's starting to become more and more popular. But
hey, don't knock My Little Pony.
Cleopatra in space, kind of for her, she was just like, this is kind of cool. Here's this kick butt, little action hero who just happens to be a teenage girl. And it was like, what a great idea. And I remember thinking at the time that you've got something here, like this is a great idea, and so it didn't surprise me when you announced that these were going to be graphic novels with Scholastic. Can you tell us how that came about? Like when did you find out? Like, did you shop it out to them? Did they find out about what you were doing? How'd that work?
Well, I was working on the webcomic, and I think I had I definitely had like first two chapters of it done. So that first like sort of black and white run that I had done, and then like a chapter 2, which was all in color and looked a little bit more polished. And I had created like kind of self-published 2 little volumes of those, like printed volumes of them that I just sent off to a local printer and just stapled together. And I took those with me to Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con.
I love that.
And there was I haven't been in years, but
we're all going this year. We were just talking about that earlier on the show. Everybody's going this year.
Everybody's going. We'll all hop online, go to the Zoom Comic-Con. Right. But yeah, I was just doing what I always do there, which is selling mostly prints. And I was like, I'm gonna try to see how well this new little comic I'm doing does. And there was a guy from book fairs, scholastic book fairs, that picked it up, and he said, "Yeah, I think this will be good for Scholastic." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, that'll be $20."
And he said, "No, I mean, not just
yeah,
the prints."
I really sort of blew it off. I really didn't. I thought like, "Oh, you're being nice. That's cool, you know." But I got back, and I think it was maybe 2 or 3 days later after I got back home. David Saylor, who's the director of graphics there, called me up and
cool.
just said that I think this would be good for graphics. Do you have any ideas for a graphic novel series? And I just happened to have, I've been thinking about it as, with the webcomic, it was I sort of putting one page up every week, and it just was not a sustainable model for that comic. I had this long, drawn out kind of idea that I wanted to do for it, and I'd be old and gray before it was ever finished. So I was already thinking about how it would play out as more of a long-running series. So it was really easy to put a proposal together for him.
Well, that's great timing.
Wow,
That's
that's
really
amazing.
quick too. Just a couple of days. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was years ago, but I remember it was definitely the week I had gotten back. And he called me. I was at work. I was at my day job, and I was like, let me, I got to take a lunch break. I just sort of, thankfully I had a very casual work environment, and my desk was actually located right next to the exit door. So I just kind of bolted outside. And I remember just, pacing around. I worked at a college campus, and I was just pacing around the campus talking and like, trying to be real professional, but at the same time internally sort of freaking out. Because
that's cool.
Really all I ever really want. My dream I was married to ever since I was young was just to put a comic out there for people to read, and suddenly there's an opportunity there to do that. So it's exciting.
Very
and now
cool.
you have a show.
That's right.
Yeah, that was not even on my. Yeah, that wasn't even on my radar. Yeah, I was not.
So
tell us, expecting that.
Tell us how that happened. Like, who did somebody? I mean, was that the production company coming, and trying to license that work? And how involved were you? Like, when did that come into your? When did it hit your radar?
Well, I had. I have a really great agent, literary agent. So that was a big part of it. Once that was sort of secured and she was really pushing the series, she was able to kind of put it out there, get some feelers out there in some studios. And that's sort of how DreamWorks found it, was just through, one of the producers there. The story, I've met him a few times. I think the story was he just walked into his office, and the first book, Target Practice, was just sitting on his desk, and he's like, "Cleopatra in space? What is this? Sounds great." Just title alone, he was sort of like all about it. And so it was really just the first book that was out when they when they caught his attention. I was finishing up the second book. I was kind of working on that. And I went back to San Diego Comic-Con, this time primarily just to meet with about 3 or 4 people from DreamWorks to talk about turning the book into like a movie or a TV show.
Wow.
And I was sort of overwhelmed by it. I was not. I was like, I had just gotten the first book out. I was pretty excited about it. It was being pretty well received. I was really focused into the second one, and then the second book was kind of a challenge. There's a lot of ways I could go with it, and I was having a hard time sort of making some decisions on where I wanted the book to go. And so I initially had kind of turned DreamWorks down. It was just too much. Too soon. Too much too soon. I knew at the time I had 9 books planned. I sort of condensed that towards the end into 6 books, which I think made the story a little bit better. But I had this long, I had so much to do. I was like, can we just maybe hold off on this for now? I remember talking to my agent about it. I was like, this is just, I'm not ready to commit to a TV show. I don't even know exactly how the story is going to play out. I'm going to have to kind of really work with them and make sure like this idea I have stays fairly intact if it's going to become something else. So I really need to think about that some more. So yeah, I said no.
That's great.
But they eventually, they just kind of were pretty persistent. They really kind of kept coming back to it. And I could tell what eventually made me say yes is I could tell they really, really liked the material, but they were sort of going to take care of it. That was the big thing. I felt like the main person that was sort of involved, who I was talking to, was going to treat it in a way that I would be happy with. And so that was sort of a defining factor. And once we started talking about being more of a television series rather than a movie, I got a lot more excited about it, because that is what I wanted. I mean, the whole graphic novel concept is influenced by Saturday morning cartoons. Right. So the idea of it being a movie was just, I didn't think would work. I honestly didn't think it would be very successful. But a television series was exactly what I wanted for it. So yeah. And then, yeah, here we are.
And so now that it's out, now that people are seeing it, I mean, you had seen it before, obviously it had come on Peacock TV, but what goes through your mind when you see based on the book series by Mike Maihack and the credits at the beginning? Like what does that feel like?
It's pretty surreal. It's more surreal just to watch the characters sort of come to life with, voices, and then not even come to life, but just like somebody else's interpretation of the characters, taking on a life of their own, and seeing what they took and what they changed, and all of that is just so exciting to watch. And I think that's how stories really grow, is you can't hold on to them too tightly. You sort of just have to let other people kind of take the reins. And it was really fun to sort of watch that. Well, I mean, I guess Star Wars, kind of, he finally, for better or worse.
Sure.
It's fun. I love how everybody was so, against Lucas after the prequels, and then after the new ones came out,
they wanted him back.
Yeah, everyone wanted him back. And it's like, well, it is his idea. He's gonna know exactly what you should do with it. But
so you did, yeah, you mentioned how they were interpreting the characters, and there were some pretty notable changes right in that first episode. I was like, wait a minute. First of all, Aquila, who is like Cleo's best friend, is now an alien in the, well, I guess technically they could all be aliens because they're out in space, but, sure. But she's like an actual alien with like, side eyelids and just like all that kind of stuff. And Brian is like almost entirely mechanical, right? He's like a cyborg.
He's a cyborg.
Yeah. So those are
call him a robot.
Two big changes. Like, did you know those were happening beforehand? Like, at what point did you find out what was going on?
Well, early, I mean, I was consulting through the entire sort of pre-production of it, and even early on, when they were just developing the stories, I was giving them this is what's going to be happening, this is what's going to be coming up. But I looked at it in a way, well, if we're going to do this all over again, what would I have changed going, if I would go back? And I sort of did that I had already done that with the graphic novels. I was like, now that I'm starting over again, what would I have changed from the webcomic? Which really the biggest change was just kind of making her a little younger and starting from the beginning. But I was thinking about this scene in the second book of where Cleo is sort of feeling sort of like, she's literally a fish out of water, so she's, not literally a fish out of water, but she's, she feels like, she's out of the place. And, she wants to go back home. And then she has this roommate, Aquila, who really doesn't have any close friendships. And she feels that kinship with Cleo, and she's upset that she's going to be leaving and all this. And so there's this moment between them where Cleo's like, you just want to leave. And Cleo's like, what are you talking about? Like, everything around me is just crazy. I've got like I've got this like squid next to me in biology. I've got electricity, just everything's nuts. Like, you're the only thing that's normal in my life right now. And I was like, man, that, the way I drew Aquila was just, she was pretty much, I based her off of Willow from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And so I was like, that scene would have been so much more powerful if Aquila was an alien. It's like, you're the most normal thing, because it had nothing to do with how it's all about internal. And so I told them this story. I was like, this is one of these things I would have done different. I would have made Aquila an alien. And I can't remember, it's been a while, but I think they had already started talking about that, or decided, we are going to make, Aquila an alien. And I was like, I was like, well, while we're on the subject, Brian might be a robot by book 6.
Wait, are we getting a spoiler? Yeah. Is this possible? Is this something that's going to come true in the book?
Well, I don't, maybe he is, maybe he is. I never really but I really sort of thought about this acronym of what Brian would be. And it was something, I can't remember exactly, like biological robot, and then it was like, and then the end was just going to stand for nothing. It's like nothing. Because he thought Bria sounded like a girl's name. And it was just like, I just kind of left it because I was like, I don't really like that. It's just not a good joke. And so I just didn't even bother with it. But I did tell him, I'm thinking about this. And I think they just ran with that. I don't know if they were already planning on making him a robot, or if that was just something for me. Kind of joking around, but
I gotta say, Brian's hilarious. His whole facial expression algorithm thing cracks me up.
That's going to be a good running joke, I think, on there if they can keep that going.
The animators and designers on that show are just absolutely incredible. The emotions that those characters convey. I'm watching it just as a huge fan. I'm all the entire art style and stuff. I'm just so impressed by the way everything looks, and just so pleased with how it turned out.
Well, now you mentioned the next book, the 6th book is coming out next month in August. And so we're not going to have a Game of Thrones situation here where they don't have the final book and they're trying to figure out what's going to happen. So they'll have the final source material and they'll be able to finish. What can you tell us about is there anything you can tell us? Is there, is Brian a robot? We're going to find this out.
I'm totally him a robot.
You got me totally.
Don't call him a robot.
Oh man.
Yeah, he's a cyborg. My bad. Cyborg. Yeah.
Or cyborg. Yeah. Cause he's got the human brain.
Don't call him a robot. That's insulting.
But yeah, I mean, do you, as far as you know, are they going to follow the same story? I know that they're going to branch off and tell little stories along the way, like a lot of these shows do, but is the main storyline, do you think, is going to kind of follow the arc that you've created?
No, I think it's definitely going to go off on its own direction, as it should.
Okay.
It should definitely. Yeah. I want to, and in fact, this is one of the things I really wanted for the show. Is I didn't want a direct adaptation of the graphic novels. There's no sense in that. People can already read the books. There's no point in just putting the same story in a different medium. That's not interesting. And so, yeah, I think they come from the same sort of beginning point. And then it just the show will kind of go off and take certain elements from the graphic novels and take certain threads and stuff, but it'll kind of go off in its own direction. The books are definitely, I think, probably going to stay a little darker than the animated series, especially books 4, 5, and 6 kind of get a little bit more heavy emotionally than I think you would put into a
tween show.
A tween show.
Yeah.
You never know. The show could, if they're able to keep making seasons, they could age the characters and stuff, just similar to what they did with Avatar.
Well, I mean, there's a very big reveal that takes place in the books about Octavian, the bad guy, the big bad.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know if is the show going to follow that? I'm not going to say it because I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't read it yet.
Yeah. The big things I think will stick around.
Okay.
For sure. I mean, I don't know I guess I don't know for sure. But yeah, a lot of the things that people are familiar with from the graphic novels, they'll definitely recognize and they'll see and they'll know some things are coming. I think that'll make it more exciting for the people that are sort of in the know, because they'll be able to watch it knowing stuff that's going on that others may not be aware of. But for the most part, yeah, I think it's just going to kind of be its own thing. I like to think of it more of a companion piece to the graphic novels more than just.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's a lot. I mean, I gave him a lot of information of stuff I wanted to do in the books that I didn't really have the time to do. I wanted to keep the books really focused on just Cleo's story and what her internal struggles were. There's points where it deviates a little bit. You'll see a little bit with Anthony or maybe Kensu or something like that. But for the most part, the books just pretty much stay focused just on Cleopatra. And so there's this whole student body at Pyramid that I would love to tell stories about. And I had stories for. There was one character who was going to be like the Cordelia who she was going to be the one that was already the best cadet. And then Cleo comes in and steals the spotlight. They just created a character like that without me even saying
right in the
first they read my mind
right in the first episode.
She's there, and in my head she was designed differently because they didn't have anything to go off of, but the actual that specific type of character is part of it. So I like that you get these other stories that are set sort of in the same universe that I just didn't have the opportunity to really tell in the graphic novels.
So the next book comes out August 4th. Is that correct?
Yes, August 4th is the.
And you can pre-order that now on Amazon, I assume.
And you can pre-order. I hope people pre-order it. Yeah, I spent about 2 years working on that book, so I really hope. I really hope people enjoy it. I don't know. It's the last book. I think it's tough because there's so many expectations, especially for some of the bigger fans of the series and ones that have kept up with the series, and they'll be reading it, immediately. There's probably bound to be a little bit of disappointment because they build up exactly how this thing should end, and it's not
imagine
going to. Yeah, there's no way it's going to end.
Like for you.
Yeah, there's no way. But I do feel like I try to give as much of a
hashtags and petitions.
And please do this.
Change.
There's definitely stuff I didn't answer everything.
Rewrite book 6 hashtag.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Please make book 7. It'll be like book 7.
Well, so that's going to kind of be the end of an era for you. Then you've been working on these for so long. What's next for Mike Maihack?
I'm just working on. I initially swore off graphic novels at the end of towards the end of it was such a. I mean, I had a fun work on it, but it was just such a grind towards the end, trying to get it done by the deadline, and I was just putting my heart into it and just making sure it was the best art and best writing I've done, and I was just exhausted. And I was like, this is so much work. I'm never doing another comic ever again in my entire life. And then not even a month, I think it was like 3 weeks passed, and I was like kind of drawing, and I'm like, let's make a good comic.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I'm just working on a new idea. It won't be a series. It'll just be like a one book thing. I can't really say anything about it because it's not even landed with a publisher yet. I'm still working on the proposal and pitch for it and the ideas. So, but it'll be similar in terms of my style and humor, but it'll be a different type of story than a science fiction action adventure story.
Okay,
cool.
Well, we're looking forward to what it is. We love the show is great. Congratulations on that.
Yeah,
what a great
congratulations
accomplishment and to see this whole idea go from web comic to an actual animated series. That's quite an accomplishment, and it's really good. We love it. So I want to thank our guest, Mike. Thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight, talking about Cleopatra in Space. For those of you who are interested, make sure you check it out. It is on Peacock TV. You can also find the books on Amazon. You can find them at your library. You can find them anywhere that you find books. They're a lot of fun, very fun, especially for those young kind of tween and teen young adult kind of ages. It's really, really inspiring to see female representation and heroes for our young girls out there. It's not enough of that going around. So thanks to Mike for doing that. Mike, where can people find you online? Like where should they learn more about what's going on with you?
Well, they can go to my website, which is I have like so many domain names for it now because I combined all my sites into just one site. So you can go to cleopatranSpace.com. OperationSpaceCat.com is the main domain.
Like. Yeah, I like that one.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's the main one. So that's good.
That's awesome.
That's a favorite. But also CountBuffalo.com will take you there. MikeMaihack.com will take you there.
You do have
probably time to get rid of some domain names. It's getting expensive. Now that they're all going, before they all went to different places, and now they're all going to the same thing. So it's sort of redundant. But
all right.
Yep.
And you're on Twitter at MikeMaihack.com, correct? Or not .com. You're on Twitter at Mike Maihack, correct?
At Mike Maihack. Anywhere on pretty much most of the social nets, I'm at Mike Maihack, yeah.
Well, once again, I want to thank our guest, Mike Maihack. We want to thank special thanks to Utah and Allea, my Panel Gone Geek co-hosts. Be sure to get social with us on Twitter and Instagram at World Gone Geek, and on Facebook, facebook.com/World Gone Geek. Next week, San Diego Comic-Con. Everybody's going. Whoa. We'll be recording Thursday night.
You get it back.
Yes. We're recording Thursday night, so we'll have a first day's preview and heads up for what to look for that weekend. So join us then. Be well and make a difference wherever you can. See you guys next time.
The Podcast is Real is a World Gone Geek production.